Yeah, let's get into some Burt Bacharach then, if you don't mind. And it's probably through a portal that a lot of people don't know about. It's through Patti LaBelle. But this song was On My Own, and it was written and I think produced also by Burt Bacharach. Is that correct?
And Carol Bayer Sager, who he was married to at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this would have been, let's see what I got, 1986. So this would be before the earliest, I think, of any of the songs we've talked about so far.
Before this Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, so that was 87, or at least when it released, you know.
That makes sense, though. That makes sense because I mean, again, you I would say I had a scholarship to play at the most prestigious music college, which was the LA session scene at that time. So, it was inevitable you would learn from one session and take it to the next. Yeah. And so I owe Burt quite a bit. I played on a bunch of songs for him during this time.
So what was his what was his vibe like relative to, let's say like another icon like Quincy Jones? Like what was the Burt Bacharach session typically like?
Well, the one difference is he was a songwriter on every song that he would do, at least that I played on. And so he came at it with such an intricate foreknowledge of the melody and of the song. And interesting thing about Burt Bacharach, when I remember this again, it was scored out pages of sheet music, right, with chord symbols, but a lot of melodies written. For this guitar player, that was not my strong suit, so I had to rely more on my ears, which didn't seem to bother him. He wasn't interested in whether you played it the first take right or not. But I noticed when you looked at his songs on the page, not as much on this Patti LaBelle song, but on other songs, I heard a quote about his. I think Burt told me this because I had mentioned something that digesting his music took me a while, and I think it took everybody a little while. Frank Sinatra said about Burt Bacharach that he wrote in hat sizes. Now, I'm not a hat guy, so I didn't really at first know what that meant. But what? 4 3/8 or whatever. Are you a hat guy or no?
No.
Well, it's not like just the number 4.
I know somebody who is though.
Okay. 4. It's not just a number. It's like that and some
fraction,
some fraction on top of it. And so what he would do is if you listen to his music, he would write over bars. Like your phrase doesn't just start on beat 1 and end on beat 4 in the next phrase. So he would write like a phrase that would start maybe on the end of 2 and go through the beat 3 of the next bar. And at first, if you see that, if you're not a great reader, it's so confusing. So what I had to do is just close my eyes and listen to the song. It always made sense. And
would you chart it then yourself with like notes from there to kind of say, okay, this is what's happening? Or would you just kind of have the memory to just kind of remember the form?
I was a memory guy, and it's always served me. I could read a little bit. I mean, enough to get me through some tense situations, but for me, the equation that always worked was just listen to the song, listen to what was being sung, and then again, just apply what I'm doing to that now. But Burt, the thing that I learned and picked up from him is that he would go, he would always go, Danny, hear the melody, shadow that, shadow. Okay, interesting. So again, that was one thing. It worked for Burt Bacharach. Well, then I guess it worked for Michael Jackson, on that song. And I would take that into other sessions, always being aware of that as a possibility in my part. And it informs a lot of things. It doesn't always work, but you can use that as part of your arsenal. And so on the Burt thing, interestingly enough, this is another song that was tracked.
So Patti LaBelle was there as well?
Yeah, she was there.
And Michael McDonald as well?
Michael McDonald was not.
He was not?
No.
So did somebody have a scratch vocal for him, or was it just...
that I don't remember. I don't...
I guess Burt could have done it because he could sing.
I don't even know that it was a duet at that time. I just recently listened to Michael McDonald's book on audio, right?
Right.
And he talked about that song. He never had met Patti. Even after he recorded that, on a different
So they were
coast.
just siloed.
They did their videos on different coasts. I didn't know that either. And he didn't meet her until they performed it one time live.
Wow.
But Yeah, it's quite. I mean, Burt's writing was awesome. The way at the end of the song that they're singing the melodies, and then each one, it's not just ad libs. It was composed ad libs. So there were melodies within the ad libs that kept taking the thing up. That's how Burt worked. And he would usually book a whole day, meaning 2 sessions, meaning 6 hours, maybe from 12 to 6, right?
One song?
Just one song.
Yeah.
And it would be a stripped down, usually just a guitar player, keyboard, bass, and drums.
Right.
And that was it.
So that was Burt playing piano, and Greg Gaines, David Foster was playing.
He wasn't. David wasn't there. I would have.
And then Neil Steubenhaus on bass, and then Carlos Vega drums.
Yeah.
The late great Carlos Vega.
Yeah, my thought was probably Greg was probably the session player. I don't know again, some of these memories are a little foggy for me, but I remembered, I think Mick Gazowski probably tracked it. He was a great mixing engineer. He would track Burt's sessions. So you would, in your headphones and in the control room, it sounded like a finished mix. It was so inspiring. And again, the level was so high. Burt would walk in and you were on your best behavior. I remember there was a Barbra Streisand tune one day. When you got a Burt Bacharach call, it was always going to be legendary artists singing. It was incredible.
How old do you think he was at that time? I mean, because he was quite long lived for anyone, but he was probably got to be in his 60s or 70s even at that point, right?
You'd have to do the math. I mean, we could Google it. So I was in my 20s. He was at least in his late 50s.
Okay.
I mean, he was remarkably fit and a handsome guy too. So it was hard to know.
Yeah, right.
Energy. It was infectious because he wrote these songs and he cared about them. It wasn't just a piece of business. And this was his art. And he was one of the American songbook writers. So yeah, it was built into the session. I mean, it feels, you get that emotional. I wish I had known in what I know now about his life when I was in my 20s. That's my only regret. But maybe I would have been too intimidated. So maybe my ignorance was a bit of an asset for me at that time.
Well, you want to play a little On My Own?
Yeah, but first I got to pee.
All right, let's do it.
Never should be spoken.
Love it.
I took a little bit of license. I just was thinking, I usually get my best thoughts when I'm relieving myself. Shadow Man. This should have been my nickname, right? Because there's a theme in all this stuff. In all these songs, there's a shadow of the melody. And I guess until you look retrospectively, I didn't realize that was such a big part of what I was doing or called on to do. But all of it makes sense now, right? Mm. You remember those little things, and it sets up even in the those little things. You're present, but you're not taken over. I'm going to use this on my next project.
Yeah, we have a lot to thank Burt Bacharach for.
Oh. Well, and it's funny. I also didn't. Here's a humorous side note of this. Everything that I seemed to do in the 80s would either be full on distortion, right? Just blazing, or chorused beyond recognition, what I call it. I did that for about 2 decades. And then I would say starting in the year, 1998, I don't think I touched a chorus pedal until maybe 20 years later. I think I used it all out.
Yeah, I think by the time you were doing the Shania and Martina McBride stuff, it was definitely no chorus to be found on any of that. That was probably 96 or something like that.
No, all of a sudden, it's how something that was so prevalent and accepted and necessary was like just absolutely like, no, stay away from that. And now it's making a little comeback.
It's making a big comeback.
Yeah.
Chorus is back, and yeah, the detune and the pitch shift kind of stuff, and like what you were using SPX 90 or that sort of stuff for, that's all making a comeback.
Well, these young bands that I'm hearing, well, I think they do the 80s better than the 80s. 1975, right?
Yeah, sure.
Do you know the guitar player in that band?
I don't know his name, but I know that
we should look him up. I mean, because he's great. I mean, it's just, and I also heard that I think Rich was telling me from Tyler. He was telling me that they're very keen on finding out, you know, what we were using at that time. And I listened to some of their music, and I mean, they've taken it to another level as far as I'm concerned, that whole 80s thing. And it really bothers me that I don't know his name. It's
I'm sure we can look it up. And
yeah, that's just whatever.
Well, did you listen to the latest John Mayer record, Sob Rock? Because he tried to kind of recreate a lot of those like Lukather and Paul Jackson parts in a lot of the more 80s influenced songs. I don't know if you listened to it, but I
didn't even know it existed.
Okay. I'll share some of the songs with you, and you can have a listen, because I think you dig it. He's brought back a lot of that kind of like really clean, compressed comping and chorus and stuff like that. Even in the lead tone, and in some cases, kind of more like Def Leppard-y, like.
I've heard of this guy. Yeah, he's probably going to have a decent career. This young John Mayhall, what's his name?
Yeah, Mayhall. Yeah,
freaking dude, man. He's what a guitar player.
Yeah.
No, I to be honest, I didn't know.
I'll play some for you. You can have a listen to it, see what you think. And you know, Don is involved with all that stuff.
Of course,
it sounds really great. And you know, he was involved with some stuff with some heavy chorus. Like I don't know if you remember those Bonnie Raitt records that he produced. Like Nick of Time, you know, has a lot of chorus on a lot of those. Are really cool. But man, I love everything about this song. It's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks.